Welcome back to another episode of No Shame with Shane, where the takes have no lies, no bias, but most importantly, no shame. I'm your host, Shane Fordham. Now, jumping straight into it, the Sixers draft VJ Edgecombe with the number 3 overall pick in the draft. And I got to say, this was a great pick. This was a great pick. I'm not going to lie, though. VJ Edgecombe wasn't my first pick. You guys know that who tune in. VJ Edgecombe was not my first pick because I was big on Derek Queen. VJ Edgecombe wasn't my first pick, not because I didn't think VJ Edgecombe was one of the elite guys, not because I didn't think he was one of them ones in this draft class, one of the elite talents in this draft class, but it's just because I was big on Derek Queen. That's really the only reason. I was big on Derek Queen. I was big on Ace Bailey before all the drama. It was before the drama. Cut me some slack. It was before the drama, before he refused to work out for us and a number of other NBA teams. That was the only reason. VJ Edgecombe was my top 2 to top 3 pick. It was top 2 after the Ace Bailey situation. He was my second overall pick, my second favorite pick, aside from Derek Queen. I thought Derek Queen would have been the perfect replacement for an injury-riddled Joel Embiid. I thought it would have marked the beginning of a new era in Philly, a Joel Embiid-less era in Philly. But I got to say, I'm not complaining about VJ Edgecombe. By no means am I upset about VJ Edgecombe. This was a great pick by Daryl Morey and the Sixers. It honestly would have been hard for the Sixers to screw this up. It would have been hard for the Sixers to screw up this pick. Being able to pick this high in this specific draft class, it would have been hard for the Sixers to screw this up. With how deep of a draft class this was, especially as compared to last year's draft class, I mean, it would have been nearly impossible for the Sixers to screw this up. They would have had to pick Con Knipple or Trey Johnson with the number 3 overall pick in the draft this year. Not saying those guys were bad picks. Clearly 2 of the top guys in this draft class, but not number 3 overall guys. Not number 3 overall guys that would have been a better fit for the Sixers than VJ Edgecombe. There aren't many guys that would have been a better fit for the Sixers than VJ Edgecombe. Maybe one guy. Maybe 1 to 2 guys that would have possibly been better or as good of a fit for the Sixers, looking at Derek Queen and VJ Edgecombe. But VJ Edgecombe is a great fit for the Sixers. He's a great fit for the Sixers. We're talking about a guy that can play positions 1 to 3. He can run point if he needs to, or he can play the 2 or 3. He gives your lineup a lot of different options. He gives your roster a lot of different options, your rotation a lot of different options. But not only can he play positions 1 through 3, he can guard positions 1 through 3. He is arguably as good of a defender as he is a scorer. VJ Edgecombe was a great fit for the Sixers. So I am not complaining by any means. I think this is a guy that can easily be Rookie of the Year this year with the system that he was brought into. This was not only a great fit for the Sixers, but it's honestly the best fit for VJ Edgecombe. He's coming into a system where he doesn't have to carry the responsibility of facilitating. He doesn't have to carry the responsibility of creating looks for others. Now, VJ Edgecombe is a guy that can create open looks for others. He can obviously create open looks for himself. But in this system in Philly, he only has to worry about creating shots for himself. He only has to worry about attacking and defending. Being a true two-way player, playing his game, his style of play that he is best at. We know VJ Edgecombe is a guy who thrives in fast break situations. He's a fast break starter. He's a fast break finisher. He's a lockdown defender. He's aggressive in the lane, in the paint. He's aggressive at charging the lanes. He can knock down open shots. He can knock down threes. He can create off the dribble when he needs to. This is a true two-way guy. He is in a system where he can just be himself. He doesn't have to change or alter his style of play. He doesn't have to pretend to be something he's not. In Philly, VJ Edgecombe can be himself. He can be himself. He can play his style of basketball, his brand of basketball. He's in a system where he can play off of the facilitators in Philly. He doesn't have to worry about creating for others because that's Tyrese Maxey's responsibility. Tyrese Maxey, as the best player on this team, being that he is one of the elite guys on the squad who is the most dependable guy out of the elite guys we have. It's Tyrese Maxey's responsibility to control the floor, being the point guard, having the capabilities that he does as a ball handler, as a scorer. It's Tyrese Maxey's ability to not only create for himself, but to also get the other guys involved. Adding VJ to the mix just gives Tyrese Maxey another weapon to be able to facilitate with. So this is the perfect pick for VJ Edgecombe. But then looking again at this overall squad, drafting VJ Edgecombe, it gives the Sixers different options in their rotation. It gives having VJ Edgecombe, it allows the Sixers to either play small ball or play more traditional. Like I said, VJ Edgecombe is a guy that can be the 2 or the 3. He can even be the 1 if he needs to. Unlikely on this squad that he'll have to run the 1 or be in that position, but he's a guy that can definitely play, that can be at a 2 or a 3. The Sixers now have the option to play small. If they want to start VJ at the 3, have Jared McCain at the 2, maybe have Kelly Oubre or Gershon Yazbusele at the 4, or PG at the 4, or Justin Edwards at the 4. They have different options now. They can go small, or they can use more of their size. Obviously, having Adem Bona coming off the bench behind Joel, having Andre Drummond. You could even, they have different options. You can even start Yazbusele at center if you want to in a certain lineup. Like this, having VJ Edgecombe in this lineup, it gives the Sixers more depth and more options to use in rotation. Because if we learned anything from last season in the NBA, it's how important depth is to your squad, how important having a bench is to your squad. You draft a day 1 starter like VJ Edgecombe, you can now bring Kelly Oubre off the bench. You draft a day 1 starter like VJ Edgecombe, you could even have PG come off the bench, especially coming off of the declining year he had last year. You can having VJ Edgecombe, the Sixers are now in a position where their bench could contain Quentin Grimes, Jared McCain, Kyle Lowry, Kelly Oubre, Ricky Council, Adem Bona. Like there's a lot of different guys. There's a lot of different guys that the Sixers can now have a spark off the bench. The Sixers can now have multiple spark plugs off the bench, adding VJ Edgecombe to the roster. Adding VJ Edgecombe to the roster does a lot of different things for this Sixers squad. It gives you the opportunity to play small. It gives you the opportunity to play more traditional with more size, but it also allows you to beef up your bench. Also allows you to have one more spark, one more dependable guy coming off your bench. Honestly, with VJ Edgecombe on the squad, the Sixers this year could really have depth at the level of a Pacer squad this year. Can really have the depth at the level really of a Thunder squad this year. Like we saw how the ability to play small ball or traditional, that was something else that we saw worked out well for teams last year. That was something that we saw was a quality of a true playoff team last year. Being able to play small or play traditional. The Pacers, we saw how well it worked out for the Pacers being able to switch between playing small or playing more traditional style of basketball. We saw how well it worked out for the Thunder, being able to switch between playing small and playing more traditional. We saw how well it worked out for the Miami Heat team the year before last, before they traded Jimmy Butler. We saw how well it worked out for them being able to play small. Like we have seen great teams over the years be able to switch between being able to switch between different lineups, being able to execute with different lineups. The Sixers drafting VJ Edgecombe was a step in that direction. We are now in a position where we can either come out shooting with a lineup of Maxey, Jared McCain, VJ Edgecombe, maybe having PG at, depending on, assuming if they're healthy, PG at the 4, Embiid at the 5, maybe even Justin Edwards at the 4, Embiid at the 5, or playing more traditional, where we have Maxey at the 1, VJ at the 2, PJ or Justin Edwards at the 3, vice versa at the 4, maybe with Gershon Yazbusele at the 4. You know, like this Sixers lineup this year, this Sixers roster this year has a lot of different options going into this season with the addition of VJ Edgecombe. VJ Edgecombe was the perfect fit for Philly. Perfect fit for Philly. I mean, you look at this guy's story. This is a guy that actually wants to play basketball. You look at his story, you know, his migrating from the Bahamas to the United States with his mom and his brother. You know, he grew up playing against grown men in the Bahamas. As a 12-year-old, was going head to head with grown men. You know, having to force himself to be a physical basketball player early on, bringing that mentality to the United States. I mean, definitely coming from humble beginnings with his family. If you've heard his story, and you can see in the way he plays like he's playing for more than himself. He plays like he's playing for his mom, for his brother. You can see the desperation in the way that he plays basketball. What he was able to do at Baylor this year, leading them through the March Madness tournament, what he was able to do on the basketball court this year, you could see the desperation in his style of play. You could see his hunger in the style of play. That's the type of aggressiveness that we should want in Philly. That is the type of aggressiveness that we need in Philly. Someone who we know wants to play basketball. We've gone through periods where Ben Simmons didn't look like he wanted to play basketball. All the talent in the world. We've had guys as super talented as they were. Ben Simmons seeming like he didn't want to play basketball. Joel Embiid going through a phase in his career where he not only could he not stay healthy, he also seemed lazy. Didn't seem like he was really putting in the effort off the court in maintaining his weight, taking care of his body. Like, the Sixers have had to put up with guys who didn't seem as invested in the culture as really the city. Guys who weren't as invested in winning as the city of Philadelphia was. We don't have to worry about that in a guy like VJ Edgecombe. We know that is a guy that wants to come in and win. He wants to come in, make the squad better. He wants to play basketball. He plays like a guy who has everything on the line. He plays like a guy who is not only playing for himself, but is playing for others, who has a family to support. That is the type of mentality that we need in Philly. That's the type of mentality that could really make the Sixers a top 3 team in the East this year. That is the type of guy that we need in Philly. That's the type of guy that we need going into a conference that is really up for grabs this year. The Eastern Conference is up for grabs this year. The Eastern Conference is definitely up for grabs this year with Jason Tatum, with Jason Tatum being injured and with Tyrese Halliburton being injured. With the Celtics and the Pacers with the Celtics and the Pacers pretty much being done this season, the Eastern Conference is up for grabs. Jason Tatum likely being out Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton likely being out for the entirety of the 2026 season with an Achilles, both out with Achilles tears. The conference is really up for grabs. Now, I'm not going to say the Sixers are going to be the best team in the East this year. Like, when I say up for grabs, it's definitely going to be a competition. Like, it's going to be a fight. I'm not going to say the Sixers are definitively the best team in the East right now because of what we saw from the Cavs this past year. A team that was really, if they were healthy in the playoffs, could have beat the Pacers. I'm not going to say the Sixers are better than the Knicks this year. I'm not going to say they're better than a team that has the offensive talent that they need to win. That was able to knock out the reigning champions at the time in the Celtics. I'm not going to say the Sixers are better than the Orlando Magic. I'm not going to say they're better than the Magic. A squad that was an up-and-coming squad last year that now has Desmond Bane, a solidified scorer. I'm not going to say that the Sixers are head and shoulders better than the Pistons this year. Cade Cunningham coming off the historic year that he had. The young squad that they have around him with him at the core. Like, I'm not going to say the Sixers are definitively going to be the best team in the East this year, but I think they could easily be top 3. This is definitely going to be more of a competitive conference than people realize. Not saying that it's going to be the West. Not saying that it's going to be as deep of a run as the West, but the Eastern Conference is definitely going to be a more of a competitive battle for, like, the battle for the conference is definitely going to be more competitive than people think. The Sixers definitely have, even with the Celtics and the Pacers being out, the Pacers starting over, trading away Drew Holiday, trading away Kristaps, the Pacers losing Hallie for the rest of the season. Even with those two teams out, the East is still going to be competitive, but I think the Sixers have what they need this year to survive that fight. I think the Sixers have what they need this year to hang with any other team in the conference. For sure. If you're looking at the Sixers really are, you could really say the Sixers could be the deepest team in the Eastern Conference this year. The Sixers could easily be the deepest team in the conference this year. And you could also say that they are one of the best two-way teams in the conference this year. You could say that the Eastern Conference, you could say that the Sixers are as good defensively as they could be offensively. Looking at this roster from top to bottom, we know Joel Embiid, when he's healthy, he's arguably the best defender in the NBA. We know, looking at PG, even with the decline that he had last season, even when he's on the court, he's at least a good defender. He's at least a capable defender. We know VJ Edgecombe can play defense. We know we have a squad that is capable of doing that. We know the Sixers are capable of playing better defense than the Knicks overall. We know the Sixers are arguably a better defensive team than the Magic. We know the Sixers this year could arguably be a better defensive team than at least the Pistons. We know the Sixers are deeper than the Knicks, are deeper than the Pistons. Could really say they're deeper than the Magic this year as well. I mean, the Cavs is really the only team in the Eastern Conference that can say they are a better overall defensive team and are maybe slightly deeper of a team than the Sixers. That's the only team that really has an argument for in those two categories in regards to defense, in regards to depth. Only team in the Eastern Conference that has an advantage in those two categories in regard to the Sixers. So I think the Eastern Conference is definitely up for grabs this year, but the Sixers have what it takes to at least be a top 3 team in that in that fight, in that battle. They have they have what it takes to at least be a top 3 team in that battle for the conference. I think VJ Edgecombe was the perfect fit for Philly. And I think it's really going to be interesting to see how free he is going to be able to be in this offense. Like I said, he's coming into a system that is a perfect fit for him. Not only is he the perfect fit for Philly, but Philly is the perfect fit for him. He's coming into a scheme where he doesn't have to worry about running the floor. He doesn't have to worry about facilitating. All we need VJ Edgecombe to do, we just need him to be him. We need VJ Edgecombe to be himself, be who he is, be the natural two-way player that he is. Doesn't have to really worry about creating open looks for others. Doesn't have to worry about necessarily spreading the love around. All we need him to do is attack and defend. Do what he does best. Do what he did best at Baylor last season. VJ Edgecombe in this system could easily be Rookie of the Year this year. And with him having a Rookie of the Year caliber season, the Sixers no doubt will easily be a playoff team, but I think the Sixers could be in a position where they are fighting for the first seed in the East this year. Like, the only negative to the squad this year in regards to their playoff hopes is that, like, the only obstacle to the Sixers this year in their playoff hopes, I think it comes down to a couple of things. One, Paul George has to realize that this is not his squad. Paul George has to realize that he is nowhere close to being a co-pilot on this team anymore. He is no longer a guy like Paul George is used to being the first option, the second option, even the third option in some cases. On this team, Paul George is neither of those. Paul George is he's most certainly not the first option. He's nowhere close to being the first option. He's nowhere close to being the second option. And he is really not even going to be the third option on this squad. Paul George has to realize that he is now a role player in this system. He is just another rotational piece in this system. We know the first option on this team when he's healthy is Joel Embiid, no question. The first option on the squad. But Tyrese Maxey is right there with the one. If Joel Embiid is 1A, Tyrese Maxey is 1B. Tyrese Maxey is really going to take a step up to 1A as Joel Embiid will inevitably deteriorate throughout the regular season. We know option 2 is going to likely be Jared McCain. We know option 2, based on what we saw last season, option 2 is going to be Jared McCain. Whether it's him starting in the starting lineup or whether it's him coming off the bench. We know based off the shooting capabilities that we saw from Jared McCain last year, based off his ability to create off the dribble, create his own shots, his ability to handle the ball, Jared McCain will likely be the second option this year, behind more of a co-pilot system between what should be a healthy Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey in the regular season at least. Jared McCain will be right behind those two. But then what makes Paul George's chances even less likely of being one of those go-to options is VJ Edgecombe. If the number 2 option isn't Jared McCain this year, it'll be VJ Edgecombe. With how comfortable VJ Edgecombe could be in this system, with how free he should be able to play in this system, the number 2 option could likely be VJ Edgecombe. So Jared McCain and VJ Edgecombe will be interchangeable as the number 2 options in this offense. Whoever's not at number 2 will be at number 3. Number 4, for the number 4 option, I think we could likely see either Justin Edwards or Gershon Yazbusele at number 4 in terms of being the number 4 option in this offense. So my point is that this Sixers team is so talented especially a healthy Sixers team. This Sixers team is so talented, so deep, that Paul George has to realize that he is going to need to mentally take a step back in terms of his responsibility and his role on the offense. He is going to need to take a step back in order for this Sixers team to reach the full height of their potential. Justin Edwards is going to be a sleeper this year. Justin Edwards is a sleeper for me. Gershon Yazbusele is a sleeper for me. I would rather see those two guys have more of a prominent, notable role in this offense than Paul George. One, because of the decline we saw last year, his age, his inconsistency on offense, a season of production that was really worse than what we have gotten from Tobias Harris from his time in Philly. Didn't think that was possible. But from what we saw from Paul George last season and the promise that we saw from the decline we saw from Paul George last season and the promise that we saw from young guys like Justin Edwards and Yazbusele last season, I would definitely rather see one of those two guys step into step into a bigger role in this offensive rotation than Paul George. So whether it's Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, Justin Edwards, Yazbusele, Paul George is going to have to take a step back this season. You know, he's gonna have to limit, like his role will need to be limited in this offense for the Sixers to reach the height of their potential. That means less shots. That means less time with the ball in his hands. Like, that's going to be an obstacle. Like, if he has trouble figuring that out, if he has trouble getting comfortable with that reality, that's going to be an obstacle for the Sixers this season. When I look at a guy like Paul George, even though I don't see him as being a major contributor on the offensive end this season, I still think he will be a valuable resource for this team because of the type of mentor he can be to VJ Edgecombe. Paul George is the perfect player to mentor VJ Edgecombe because of the player Paul George used to be. The player Paul George used to be is what VJ Edgecombe could quickly become in the NBA, if not better. VJ Edgecombe could become what Paul George was in the NBA, but surpass him in terms of ceiling. He could potentially have a higher ceiling than Paul George. We know Paul George is, you know, he's not someone who the Sixers are going to rely on to give them 20 to 30 points on any given night. He still will be a capable defender. I think his defense will play a big part in what the Sixers are able to do this year. But the most important aspect, the most important contribution that Paul George will bring to the Sixers this year is his mentorship to VJ Edgecombe. Paul George in his prime was one of the most dominant players and scorers in the NBA. He was definitely one of the best two-way players in the NBA. Honestly, I look at Paul George in his prime, he honestly had a similar dominance to Tracy McGrady. I mean, there weren't many guys in the NBA that could guard him one-on-one. And there were more, there weren't a lot of guys who Paul George could not lock up on defense. Like, Paul George was the type of guy who could dominate you on the offensive end and put you in handcuffs in defense. That's the type of player that VJ Edgecombe could grow into in the NBA. The same exact play style. And if anything, Paul George was arguably more dominant than Tracy McGrady because Tracy McGrady never won anything. Paul George at least has playoff experience. He has more playoff experience than Tracy McGrady. He was a better defender than Tracy McGrady. So my point is that Paul George is the perfect player to mentor VJ Edgecombe because he could not only help VJ Edgecombe sort of rise to where he once was, but can also help VJ Edgecombe surpass where Paul George once was. Paul George's role on the Sixers this year will be similar to the role James Bradbury had on the Eagles last year. It's honestly going to be a similar relationship, a similar role. I think even though James Bradberry wasn't obviously a as valuable of a resource on the field to the Eagles, he was valuable in the sense where he was able to mentor Quinion Mitchell and help him in his development to becoming a Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate. Really a guy who should have won Defensive Rookie of the Year. A guy who not only should have won Defensive Rookie of the Year, who not only looked like the best defensive rookie, but arguably looked like the best cornerback in the NFL. Next to Pat Surtain, arguably looked like the best corner in the NFL. So I look at Paul George having a similar role and a similar role on the Sixers and a similar role in VJ Edgecombe's development as the role that James Bradberry had on Quinion Mitchell's development. Even Cooper DeJean's development. Another obstacle will be Joel Embiid's health, as always. But I think having VJ Edgecombe, it makes Joel Embiid's health matter less. Like, the Sixers are used to being in a situation where we always have to hope and pray that Joel Embiid will at least be 80 to 85% in the playoffs, health-wise. The Sixers, we're always in a position where we are relying on Joel Embiid to be somewhat close to his peak self, his regular season self in the playoffs. But he never is. He never is, which is why the Sixers have never been able to get over that hump during this era. The Sixers are no longer in that position. I think this year with VJ Edgecombe, the reason why I say the Sixers could be a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference this year, fighting for that, really in a position where they could be fighting for that first seed in the playoffs, is because we don't have to rely on Joel Embiid being fully healthy this year. Even if Joel Embiid is at more of a 50% level, is that a similar level we have seen him be in the playoffs, especially these past 2 years, I think the Sixers can still be a winning playoff team. I think the Sixers could still win games in the playoffs, even if Joel Embiid is half of his normal self, as usual. Like, the Sixers, like, that's really going, but the thing is going to be where Joel Embiid in the postseason, the focus of the offense has to transition from Joel Embiid and has to transition more into that core, that young core of the Sixers now have in Maxey, in McCain, and now VJ Edgecombe. Another obstacle for the Sixers in having a productive, promising season this year is navigating the Joel Embiid injuries. We're in a position where his injuries shouldn't matter as much this season as they have in the past. We're in a position where they shouldn't matter as much because of the talent that we have this year. Because of the talent we have this year, with VJ Edgecombe included, Joel Embiid's injuries shouldn't be as much of a make or break factor as they have been. This Sixers team could still win games in the playoffs with Joel Embiid being half of himself, being half of his regular season self. But I think it's going to have to be a quick twitch in terms of being able to execute the offense where Joel Embiid is not the first option. As Joel Embiid deteriorates throughout the regular season, Tyrese Maxey, the Sixers are going to have to be able to execute in games where Tyrese Maxey is the bona fide, solidified first option in this offense. Where now the offense is focused or is centered around Maxey, Jared McCain, and VJ Edgecombe. That is going to, like, that it's something that is going to have to happen if the Sixers to be able to win in the playoffs this year, but it's something that definitely can happen. It's something that this team has the capability and potential of doing this year in drafting VJ Edgecombe. So I really can't wait to see what VJ does this season. And not only what he does, but what his production on the court allows the entire team to do this season, especially as they go through the playoffs. But that's all for today's edition of No Shame with Shane. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms. And I will be back later on with more shameless takes.